I get really anxious if I feel like the Truman Show where I'm just walking around. I'm like, why do I keep seeing the same thing every day? You know, like when you know that that person in front of you in the coffee line is the same person every day. Just can't do it. You know, I like meeting new people. I like new experiences. And so when this kind of came to be, the only reason I felt so comfortable jumping in it is because I knew I wasn't recreating the wheel. I knew that there was other people that were event planners because I had an event planner for my wedding. And so like pretty much my philosophy in life is, you know, we were all born the same. And so like if he can do it or if she can do it, then why can't I?
Hey everyone, Cole Turnbull with Coeur d'Alene Advice Givers, where we interview Coeur d'Alene business owners, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders to bring Coeur d'Alene residents the best advice from our community's brightest minds. Today's guest has some incredible insights on life. She comes with a deep history of working in the restaurant and hospitality industry and was once the fine dining manager at Beverly's. But she followed her heart and quit to go on a 2-month honeymoon excursion with her husband. In fact, they both quit their jobs with no idea what their next endeavor would be, until a childhood friend called her up in a panic about her wedding day. That's when she stepped up to the plate and offered to be her point of person for the day of her wedding. It was the response from her friend when she exclaimed, "You know, people actually pay you to do that," when she had that aha moment and started her business the next day. Please welcome Colleen Lopez of Colleen Lopez Events.
Hey, how's it going? Thanks for having me.
You're welcome, Colleen. So, before we dive into your business and how you got basically started it and all that fun stuff, which I touched on a little bit there, we'll start with some rapid fire, get to know you a little bit.
Someone warned me about this. I'm nervous, but I'm ready.
First of all, how do you do it? Are brides really as bad as we make them out to be?
Absolutely not.
Favorite childhood pastime?
Ooh, this one, cooking with my dad.
Do you have a claim to fame?
Ooh, this is a tough one. Claim to fame. I guess I like to party.
Go-to restaurant?
La Casa Lopez in Moscow, Idaho. If not, then Midtown Bluebird here in Coeur d'Alene. That's
more on that Moscow here in a minute, right?
Yes, yeah.
You walk into a bar, what do you order?
Double vodka soda or a White Russian.
Preference of vodka?
Absolute.
What takes up too much of your time?
My stories on Instagram.
What's a daily habit that you have that makes a positive impact on your day?
I call my family every day.
What's the coolest thing or experience you've had so far in event planning?
Let's see here. Traveling to Hawaii, to Kona, and helping one of a close friend plan her wedding out there.
Nice. If you had to stand up right now and give a 30-minute presentation with no prep, what topic would you address?
Oh my gosh, I was nervous this topic was going to come up. You know, I have a really big passion about anxiety and depression. I like helping people through that. So that's a really big passion of mine. It's not something that I've been able to really explore yet, but, you know, it's something that not everyone, but a lot of people struggle with, and it's still something that's in the shadows. And, you know, I'd love to bring more awareness to that.
Yeah, so I'm going to go off script a little bit then.
Yeah.
Kind of anxiety. I mean, anxiety and passion, it's a big thing. There's a lot of people that suffer from it. Mm-hmm. Is that something that you've suffered with from in the past?
Absolutely. I had it when I was younger. I had kind of like separation anxiety when I was a kid. And, but it kind of went away for, I don't know, probably 15 years. And it came back in college. And it shows up when I have really big decisions to make. Or, you know, I've kind of decided that it's kind of like my superpower, I guess is what I call it. So anytime I start feeling those feelings, it's because my body or my brain is trying to tell me something, and it's probably because I'm about to do something that I'm uncomfortable with. And so sometimes I have to decide if it's something that I'm just nervous about and excited about, or if it's something that's not a good fit. But it's something that I really struggled with in college, and kind of saw the light once I graduated and kind of started moving towards my career path. But I know a lot of people struggle with it, and there's just not a lot of people out there that are really addressing it. And man, if I could make that my full-time job, I totally would. And maybe I will. Who knows?
So do you have like a couple hacks or tricks to kind of calm your anxiety?
Yeah. So usually when I feel it, it's in the morning. And I don't feel it every day unless I have like a lot on my plate. It feels like there's like an elephant on my chest when I wake up sometimes. If I have like a lot of projects at once, or like I said, if I'm going up against something that I, definitely didn't expect to go through, I guess. And so definitely there's grounding tools. So, checking your 5 senses, feeling something, tasting something, touching something, hearing something, feeling something. So anytime, I start feeling those feelings, I definitely go to my grounding tools. If those don't work, I get up and go outside and get some fresh air and then drink a glass of cold water or really hot water. And then if those don't work, then I call my family.
They're like your security blanket.
Yep. Yeah. Oh yeah. And and that's really why I'm so passionate about it, is because I feel almost selfish that I have such a great and strong support system. And I know that there's a lot of people that don't have a support system, and that's when those are the people that need the most help, and so definitely passionate about that. That's something that really gets me excited.
Cool. Well, we'll probably touch on that a little bit more.
Okay.
Later,
Yes.
Yeah,
took a crazy turn there.
Yeah, that just like got my mind going. But,
good.
First of all, what got you involved in the restaurant business?
So my family's from Mexico. My parents are from the state of Jalisco, and my mom's from Guadalajara, and they moved to Los Angeles in the mid 80s. And my dad was actually working in an oil refinery, and he got laid off. But all of his cousins, he comes from a really small town outside of Guadalajara, and he actually all of his cousins started opening up Mexican restaurants in different parts of the U.S. And so when the oil refinery laid him off, he called all of his family and friends asking if they knew anyone that, was hiring. And they said, well, we have a position at, one of the restaurants that we're opening up in either Seattle or Moscow, Idaho. And so he's like, okay, so he went to Seattle, and, the place that he stayed at, it just felt kind of like Los Angeles, where, it just wasn't as safe. And a lot of people, they went to Moscow, and I think it was snowing when they visited. My dad was like, this is it. This is where I want to raise my family. And so obviously my family struggled, because when we arrived to Moscow, there was no Latinos or minorities in general. We were really the only ones, besides a few handfuls. And so now if you go to Moscow, it is full of culture. Same with, and it's right next to Washington State University. And there's just, it's full of culture and color, and it's just a really magical place, the Palousas. And so they ended up picking Moscow, obviously. And so they did a partnership with a restaurant, and then they ended up opening up their own, which is now La Casa Lopez on Main Street in Moscow, in downtown Moscow. And so I just was raised in restaurants since I was about 7 years old. My parents would take me to work, and I would help them wipe menus, and we'd sleep in booths when it was late at night, and they had to finish doing reports and do the food order, and we'd all go home together, and my dad would cook a really late meal, and man, those are the best memories that we have. So that's how I was raised in restaurants. And then finally, when I was old enough, I became like a bus girl, a hostess. I never actually jumped in the kitchen or anything like that until after college. But I went to college and, tried a lot of different clubs, and I just had no idea what I was going to do. And I ended up working back of house. So I was my dad's like assistant chef for a year after I graduated college. And I loved it, but it was really hard. And I just knew it wasn't, where I wanted to stay. And I had already done admin with my mom. And so I had one summer during college, I had actually become a server, which is where actually I met your wife, Tabitha. I worked at Dockside, the restaurant on the main floor in the Coeur d'Alene Resort. And, so I had some friends there still. And so when I graduated college, I reached out to some friends that still worked there. Shout out to Brianna Robeson. And she actually, helped me get introduced to some of the management out there, and they started interviewing me. And I originally wanted to go into the convention center side and learn catering sales, and then kind of grow up, go into that kind of ladder of events. But they had an opening at Beverly's, the fine dining restaurant on the 7th floor. And I was hired on as the assistant general manager. And then I also acquired a job that was called the private dining manager. And I managed any private parties in the private boardrooms and helped them select menus, pair their wines. I got to work with like world-known, wine sommeliers and got to try the best food. We met like a lot of really famous people, which was awesome. John Travolta and I are best friends. Just kidding. No, we're not. But I do have a picture with him. And he's super sweet. In case anyone else has ever met him, they could probably attest to that too. But yeah, so that's kind of my whole history with restaurants. So, and then when my husband and we quit our jobs after I had been at Beverly's for 2 years after college, when we decided to go on a honeymoon, my dad had always told me that it's always really good to know everything about a restaurant because, if the economy flops, restaurants always stay open. And so he said, everyone always needs a dishwasher. So we actually got jobs in Hawaii. We got 2 jobs each while we were there for 6 weeks. And my husband worked at a smoothie spot. It was actually called The Spot in Honolulu. And then I worked at a farmer's market making homemade ginger ale. So they would reduce the ginger into a syrup and then put that into club soda with mint, and it was just delicious. And then at night we both worked at a jazz club, and we went in as dishwashers, so base pay, nothing fancy, nothing special, and that's all we wanted. We didn't want any responsibility, so we became dishwashers here at that place. And then 2 of the kitchen staff didn't show up, and the chef looked at us and he said, "Do you guys have kitchen experience?" And we both laughed and we're like, "Yes." And he's like, "Hey, you're promoted." And we ended up getting a $3 pay raise on our first day of work, so it was pretty rad. So we were there for 6 weeks, and then we traveled to Japan and Okinawa, which Okinawa obviously is Japan, but my sister is married to a Marine, so that's how we ended up over there. And then we came back and started the business.
Yeah, so you come back and you're like, hey, you always have, like you just touched on, you always have that restaurant experience in your back pocket. You know, something to fall back on, a little bit of a security blanket. But I imagine you were probably making the pretty decent pay being the fine dining manager at Beverly's and the resort. And how hard of a decision was that to walk away from it and just go, hey, we're going on a honeymoon excursion, see you later?
Well, it's so funny because, going back into the, anxiety thing in my life is, we had done such a great job. My GM and we had really turned the place around. We created an awesome booking program, and it had existed before, but we just really made sure all those rooms were filled on every holiday. We set them up, tore them down. We were running around like crazy, but it was my dream job, 100%. I had gotten to a place where I was like, I love who I work with. I love what I do. I'm obsessed with food and alcohol, wine mainly, and vodka. But anyways, so I got there and and then they approached me about a different position in the resort. And it was also it was just an incredible opportunity for someone my age. And it was to go back to, the convention center. And I absolutely loved everyone that worked there. And it just seemed so right, but it didn't feel right. And I started getting that weird feeling in my chest. And I was like, why does it not feel right? And then I was like, well, maybe this is, the time for me to kind of do some self-exploration. We didn't have kids. We weren't ready to have kids we still don't have kids. And, I knew that I still wanted a few years of just more experiences. And to be honest, I thought when I left and we went to Hawaii and to Asia, I started watching a lot of Anthony Bourdain's, I can't remember the name at the moment, but all of his shows that touched on Japan and Okinawa and Hawaii, because I thought for sure I was going to become a food blogger, a person that just, created their show, traveled, ate food. Well, I ate everything in Hawaii, nonstop, but when we got to Japan, the first day we went to the fish market, the famous one where they have the 300 or 400 pound tunas. And we get there and, my husband, he grew up on an island. He's from the Dominican Republic. So anything that's fish, he loves, and they were selling, this ramen soup with this just fish, just the whole thing was just sitting on the ramen plate. And I'm like over here eating my gyoza and my fried rice because I cannot stomach anything. And I'm like, I can't be a food blogger. There's no way, like, So at that point I was like, I got to find another career path, and I had no idea. So, but all I knew is I didn't want to eat sea urchin or fish eyes or, anything that had tentacles. So,
but hey, I mean, you could, incorporate that all into the storyline. Like, this is how I.
Yes, yeah.
Food bloggers don't. I'm sure there's food bloggers out there that there's stuff that.
Yes,
ooh, man.
I know. Maybe I could still be a food blogger, but play the safe side, being like, this is what you guys will enjoy when you're in Japan, which is fried rice and gyoza. So,
so touched on a little bit in that intro of the creation of your company. How did you know that was it? Like, that was your moment?
Well, as much as I love the restaurant industry, my parents, they have paid, the price of what it takes to run a really successful business, and that's their health. Luckily they're still alive, and they're still, right now they're doing great and everything, but you can just tell, when your body is, hurting because it's been nonstop working, under stress for such a long period of time. And so I knew that I just mentally and physically, I just wanted to find a way to make money, that I could use my brain and not just my body. But I also knew that I needed to find something that was not the same every day. I get really anxious if I feel like the Truman Show, where I'm just walking around. I'm like, why do I keep seeing the same thing every day? Like when that person in front of you in the coffee line is the same person every day. Just can't do it. I like meeting new people. I like new experiences. And so when this kind of came to be, the only reason I felt so comfortable jumping in it is because I knew I wasn't recreating the wheel. I knew that there was other people that were event planners, because I had an event planner for my wedding. And so pretty much my philosophy in life is, we were all born the same. And so like, if he can do it or if she can do it, then why can't I? And so that's kind of why I started, I jumped right into event planning, because I knew I had the skills. I knew and it's just so funny, because I tell people, especially young people that, I work with at restaurants, or, they're like, I have no idea what I want to be when I grow up. I'm like, literally try anything and everything. You need to try it and see if you like it, if it interests you, if it doesn't. I was in so many clubs. I mean, I even sold books door to door, which I'm pretty sure was a pyramid scam. But, I
also had a door to door job.
Yes!
Oil changes. It was awful.
Yeah. And it's terrible. And I'm like, how did I get roped into this? So, I mean, I really tried it all. And even though some of those left me with like such a bad taste in my mouth, I always pull something out of those experiences that literally help me to this day. And so, my experience at Beverly's, of course, everyone's like, oh, well, you just know so many people. That's how you're so successful. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And I'm like, it's not that. It's the fact that I had to answer the phone and figure out how to put a party together or a dinner menu together, or, or how to talk to clients about budgets, and yes, absolutely. It helped me, get to know people, in this area when, because we're obviously from Moscow, and this is our 4th year in Coeur d'Alene. So the first 2 years that we were here, it definitely allowed me to meet people in this area and to grow my business from there. But it was, all those experiences, when I'm on an event, I am next to the caterer at all times, because I've managed caterings with my families, so I know exactly when they're about to run out of something, and I can go to the chef and say, hey chef, we need some more of this, or we need some more of this, or if I see that there's a ton of just plates everywhere, I'm pre-bussing, I'm making sure it's clear, I'm jumping in just as if I'm a server. So that way when people see me working, they know that they don't know if I'm on the catering team or if I'm the event planner. But, those experiences have helped me so much. And, even the things that weren't the best experiences, they still help me out to this day.
Which kind of segues perfectly into my next question for you, which was, what did you learn about yourself from making the decision to follow your heart and start your own business?
Oh, what did I learn from that?
Yeah. What's your biggest takeaway that you've learned about yourself?
When you start your own business, I think that you actually learn what you're good at and what you're bad at. And I think that when I started my own business, it gave me so much more confidence, because I knew I was good at planning events. But I didn't know that I was really organized. I talk a lot, and sometimes I don't stop talking, and I have a lot of energy all the time, and so I've never seen myself as a really organized person. Was never able to keep a planner in college. Like, I always started like the first 2 weeks, and it was like, then I was using it, as a notepad when I needed to write things down in my car. It was like I didn't actually ever use it, and so I never thought I was organized, but I didn't think that was necessarily going to hold me back. But when I started my business, I realized, oh my gosh, I am a complete organizational freak, and I'm actually also really creative. So, my brother is an artist, and he is, I have two brothers and a sister, but one of my brothers is an artist, and he's a photographer, videographer. He does any multimedia type of art, and he's always been like the brainchild with any type of art and creativity in our family. And so that was really, really exciting when, I was like, oh my gosh, I am creative. Ooh, how exciting, and so I learned something new about myself. So I really suggest, even if I encourage anyone, if, there's something that's like kind of like inkling at them, like, should you or should you not, people are going to talk about you no matter what, but the thing is you're not the only thing they're thinking about. And then, people move on. And I think that's when people hold themselves back. And that's another thing that I've also learned as, a business owner, is that you just can't get held up in, what do people think, type thing. So definitely those are the two main things, is creativity and organization.
Do you have a system for staying organized?
Yes, I do. And, but it's really funny because that you say that. I do have a system, but I will say that there's a lot of programs out there that you can purchase, that if you have no planning experience, it'll literally, you just pay like a monthly service. It's a CRM, and client resource management or something like that. And it'll give you the step-by-step of how to run your business, and it's awesome and it's great, but it just doesn't, it's not one size fits all. You really have to get in there and make it work for your business. So I realized that after like 2 or 3 attempts of like getting these CRMs, I have like my own, I'm obsessed with Excel spreadsheets. And so I make all my spreadsheets, all my invoices, everything. And it just works the best for me versus me trying to get on a program, trying to figure it out. And maybe I'll switch someday when I have, 10 assistants that can help me. But yeah, so I do have my own program that I do. And the way I like kind of created it was because a client would say, can you send me a proposal? And I'd be like, yeah, of course. And then I'd be like, oh my God, Mom, what's a proposal? And so then she'd be like, okay, this is where you start, and so it's all, most of the things that I've created or done, it's because I've had to just figure out how it works for my business. But there's so many tools out there that you could nowadays, you really don't have to have too much event experience to, just sign up for those programs, and they'll help you guide, step by step when you're planning events.
What's a go-to tool for you?
For me, for like to organize myself or in my business?
Whatever.
Well, podcasts are like my number one tool that help me run my
learning.
business. For learning, yes.
Yeah.
So, and then like to stay organized, definitely Excel spreadsheets is the number one. I learned how to create a PDF file last year. So that was pretty cool.
A PDF from the Excel sheet?
Yeah, or a Word document. I had no idea that you could do that. And I was like, this would have been so helpful in high school and college. Why did I not know about this?
Right? I know.
Yeah.
Is like banging me in the head right now.
Yes.
That's what I've been working on a lot lately, is getting 1099s together, and it's like, we have everything in an Excel sheet that I didn't put together, but now I'm like,
what's happening?
Everyone's like, here, and I'm like trying to figure out exactly, like, okay, this is how this was set up, and that was how this was set up, and oh yeah, well great, now I can go in and I can just select these columns, and I can just select those and import those as a PDF. And boom, there's the expenses, for that property or whatnot for the year. And it's like, oh my God, that just, like, that one step, like,
saved your life.
Saved my sanity this week.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely.
What's some advice that you can give to someone that's maybe starting to plan an event? Like, how do people know if they should hire an event coordinator or not?
If they actually want to have fun at their event, I feel like, and not worry about everything, I really think that like parties, obviously weddings, not everyone can, have a wedding planner, but, if it's like a special event, like a birthday party or graduation, if it's like a really special moment, and you're in charge of planning this event, I would consider reaching out to any event planner, in the area and just saying, hi, I just need support, can you point me in the right direction? Mainly because, you don't want to miss a thing. You don't want to have to worry about changing the garbage lining out of the garbages while, they're singing happy birthday to, so-and-so or grandma's 100th birthday,
Yeah.
So if you can't find an event planner and they're not available to help you, the biggest three things that I would tell people, is think about the layout of your event. So from when people walk in the door to what actions you want them to take. So, make sure your coat rack is next to your door, make sure there's someone greeting them at the door, telling them where to find things. Bathrooms are over here, appetizers are over here. Feel free to grab a glass of champagne over here, and then laying out your event like that. So, walk through your event like it's an actual, you're a guest. So that's number one, is really think about where you're placing things. So number one thing, second thing is, drinks or alcohol, or a beverage, put something in someone's hand right when they walk in the door. They are looking around like, what should I do? Oh my gosh, this is so awkward. Who am I going to run into? Do I know anyone here? Say, hey, can I get you a drink? Or have, some mocktails or cocktails, already pre-made at the door. I feel like once people have something to kind of fidget with in their hands, it makes them a lot more relaxed. And then music. Make sure there's music. Doesn't matter what kind of music, but no one wants to walk into a party where there's no music. So those are the biggest three things: is the layout, getting something in their hand right at the beginning, and music. Yeah. And obviously food. But, sometimes parties don't have food, which is fine. Snacks.
Well, yeah, I mean, going back to like, who should use a party planner, right? Like
real estate agents.
I was going back to Tabitha and I's wedding, and I'm going, like, we had it so planned out. Like, I felt like that's all we did for like 8 months.
Yeah.
Was every night, and it got sold.
Yeah. It doesn't make it really fun the day of.
And, we're spinning circles, and we had met with a wedding planner, and then she ended up not being able to do it because she had another one and was double booked that day. And then we ended up luckily having a friend who had done some planning and that sort of stuff for some events, and bless her heart, like she's saved our sanity for point of the point of contact the day of the wedding. Like, I don't honestly, like, if it wasn't for her, like, our wedding would have been such a mess.
Well, and I think that's the biggest thing. I think if it is a wedding that you are planning and you don't have professional help, number one thing that you should do is find someone that hopefully is not your mom, but sometimes moms are the ones that step in. But a friend, an aunt, a cousin, someone that can be your point of contact. That doesn't mean that they have to plan anything. That doesn't mean they have to set everything up. You can still have the groomsmen setting up the tables and the bride setting out the tablescapes, or, all of the dessert stuff. You can still have that, but just have someone that, the DJ can find and say, hi, we're still waiting for, the rest of the deposit, or, because that's the last thing the bride wants to hear on her wedding day, is like, finishing paying out the vendors, or, hey, we ran out of so-and-so. Do you want us to keep serving? Your banquet event order only says that you want this much, that way the bride can actually enjoy the moment versus having to answer all these tough questions on the day of her wedding, which she shouldn't be answering. So that is my number one advice that I would give people if they're planning a wedding, is just have a friend, pay them $100 or $150, how big, depending on how big your wedding is, or give them a nice bottle of wine, whatever. But just having someone that can at least ask you questions, because sometimes vendors are also stressed and they need answers right away. And so it's really nice to have that filter, to have someone kind of come by the bride and say, hey girl, how's it going? Hope you're having a good time. Do you need anything? Okay, what do we do about this? You know, or like, what would you want to do that? You know, and then that way it's not some weird moment in the night. And, you know, everything is photographed and videoed the entire time during a wedding. So when they get into these kind of weird, sour moments, it's like, then she has to work to, you know, shrug that feeling off, or being like, oh, well, that kind of sucked. That was weird. You know, let's move on, I guess, you know? So yeah, point of contact person, definitely necessary.
And the one other thing I learned really from our wedding was that nobody else knows how it's supposed to be except for you.
Right? That's right. No one knows.
You're like,
no one knows
like,
the
you
drill.
make such a big deal out of. You know, we had hay bales for seats at our ceremony or whatever. And
I love
it's
that.
like nobody knows that we were supposed to have
blankets on top of them.
Blankets or you know, sheets. Whatever it was. It's just like, it's just how it is. Deal with it. Let's have fun.
Yes.
You know. What are some of the biggest mistakes you see made when it comes to events?
Not having music. Or not having music loud enough. Yeah.
Not loud enough. Like,
not loud enough. I would say that was the biggest thing. Not ordering enough food. People get, you know, it really sucks when, you know, you are planning a wedding, and because you are looking, like, every extra $20 ends up, you know, in each area ends up being $1,000 because, you know, it's just another $20. Oh, it's just another $20, you know? And so brides, you know, everyone, even the most successful, you know, wealthiest people, they all have budgets, you know, everyone has a budget, you know, and you really do try and stick to it. But yeah, I would say not having music, light music during cocktail hour, you know, louder music during the reception, even louder music during the dancing. I would say that. And then if I can think of anything else, yeah, I think.
Do you think there's like something that people put too much emphasis on and then on the contrary, not emphasize enough?
I think that a lot of people, they think that there's like wedding police out there, you know, and so they think that's like, that's not how it's supposed to go, you know, or an aunt's like, well, you're not supposed to do that, you know, and it's like, no, actually, weddings are whatever you make them. If you want people to, you know, sit on the ground on blankets and pillows and with candles, and, you know, you can even put a hookah lounge in your reception, like, who cares? Like, it is your wedding, 100%. Like, there is no one coming around and saying you did it wrong, you know, you did it wrong. So, like, a lot of the times, you know, especially like aunts and grandmas and stuff, they're like, well, you didn't do a receiving line. Like, you're supposed to do a receiving line, you know, and that's not really something that our generation does very much anymore. It's more of a traditional custom. And, you know, so it's like, well, you know, and then people freak out about it, and, you know, it just doesn't really matter. You know, it does matter to some families, and, you know, you have to respect whoever is helping you with the wedding, and, you know, respect their wishes. But at the end of the day, the bride and the groom should have the final say. But yeah, so do your wedding however you want. It doesn't matter you're processional or recessional. It doesn't matter who's, you know, if it's symmetrical at the, you know, altar between your brides and your bridesmaids and your groomsmen, like, all of it, it's however you want it to be.
So now you've been doing this for 2 years, right?
Well, actually, 1 full year. So I'm going into my second year.
Yeah, your second year of full-time event planning.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
When you had that phone call from your friend and you were like, bam, that's it.
It just clicked.
I'm an event planner. Yeah. Was your vision that you had like that morning the same vision as you have for your business today?
Oh, I haven't thought about this. Let me think. Yes, it is 100%. And I really think, I don't know which podcasts or books, I've heard it a lot. And, you know, recurring themes where you really have to visualize yourself doing what it is that you want to do, and just every morning, like, what do you want to end up? You know, like, for me, I'm like, I really want to drive a black Tahoe. Like, someday I'm going to get a black Tahoe with tinted windows. I'm going to look like the president of the United States, and I'm going to roll up, you know, and do this. I'm not there yet, but someday I will get my black Tahoe, you know?
Yeah.
And so right now I'm driving a Honda CR-V. It's pretty cute. I love it. It's like a little spaceship. But yes, so you just have to visualize it and really keep aiming towards, you know, and not just that, just talking about it. You know, if you're starting, you know, your own baby clothing line, or your own, you know, macaroon shop, or, you know, whatever, you literally got to talk to people about it. You know, well, where do you go? Where do you plan? I'll go anywhere, you know, and then it's so crazy because those, even if it was a 2-minute conversation with someone that you had at the grocery store, it's so wild. I will get a Facebook message and it'll be that same person I talked to a year and a half ago that says, hey, remember that one time we ran into each other at the store? Well, you said that you did this. Would you be willing to do this? And I'm like, absolutely. That's exactly what I do. So talking about what it is that you want to do or what you will do, and and it just happens naturally. Don't be shy. Talk about what you're passionate about, and literally those things stick with people, or they'll see your face and be like, oh my gosh, I totally forgot. But now that I saw you, I remember that you said this, and my cousin is having a wedding and so, will you go there? I'm like, yep, we'll have them, they just have to take care of my flight and my lodging and I'll be there, and I'll help them. And, I haven't even done a wedding in Coeur d'Alene yet. I did 6 weddings last year and they were all travel. And most of my weddings are travel this year as well, mainly because the people that know me are people that I went to college with, or, they're cousins of someone that I knew from college. So, I'll go anywhere. So I do Tri-Cities, Los Angeles. We're going to Mexico 2 times. We got to do Shore Lodge, which was McCall this last weekend. And got a couple Coeur d'Alene ones, but it's honest to God, it's because when I opened up my Instagram and my Facebook account, I said, hey, we travel for events. And so people aren't scared to ask me, will you travel to my event? Absolutely, I will, and so then we talk about it and then we do it. So just talk about it, think about it, dream about it, and you will end up there. I mean, you actually have to work for it too. Yeah. You have to work a little bit for it, but yeah.
So if you could go back to that day, that aha day, mm-hmm. What advice would you have given yourself?
I think the quote or whatever is like, don't go grocery shopping when you're hungry. You just got to vet your clients 100%. Mm-hmm. I've been really blessed and all of my clients have been awesome. But there have been times where I'm like starting to work with someone. And for me, I'm like, you know what? I know you paid me the deposit, but I don't think this is going to be a great fit. And it's not anything against you or against me. It's just apples and oranges, like we just don't mix. And, you don't. But, and I don't ever leave anyone hanging.
Oil and water.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, I don't ever, it's just, we have different communication style. We have different vision, neither of us are having fun in this situation, mm-hmm. And so I have no problem saying, here's your deposit back, but I'm going to give you someone that is amazing for you, and you guys will click, and I just know that you guys will do great, and so that is definitely something that I run into where, when you get your first check, that like you actually go to your business checking account and you're like, oh my God, I'm legit. Like, this is awesome, and then you get like addicted to it. Then you just want to book like crazy. Like you take anything, and you really do. When you first start, not most, but a lot of the events that I did were, for friends and family, and we did not charge them anything because I just needed something on my portfolio. And then finally when you get some momentum and people are seeing what you're doing, then the first, few handfuls, you're just like, yeah. And then you get someone and you're like, why does this not feel right? Don't go shopping when you're hungry.
In your opinion, what's been the most critical aspect of Colleen Lopez events success?
Smiling. Smiling. I don't know. I feel like people want to work with people that are pleasant. I know a lot of people that are going up for big jobs and they're like, I'm underqualified. And I just tell people, if you meet someone and they think that they can, work around you for a year, because that's how long it takes to plan weddings sometimes, is a year, if they like you, if they know you, and then they start to trust you, I feel like that is the success of anyone's business. And you just got to find your ideal target market and your ideal client and keep finding them. And anytime you get that weird sense of like, ooh, that was kind of like a weird conversation, like, should I keep going? And then then you start reading the emails and you're like, oh, this is how they are. This might not, so definitely just be pleasant, be kind, smile. And then the right people will be attracted to you.
Then what's been the biggest challenge for your company?
Well, like you said, I actually don't know if we recorded this on here, but when we were first talking, you said you worked at the resort, when you first started your business. And, it's a joke when a lot of people, sing and they are terrible singers. It's like, don't quit your day job, but literally do not quit your day job, unless, you have awesome circumstances. I didn't know for sure if I was I knew I was going to be good at it, but I didn't know if I was going to love it. So, for the entire year, and to this day, I still am at 1 day a week. Actually, next month, I'm like done at my family's restaurant. So I worked when I got back from my honeymoon, when I had that aha moment, I had started picking up serving shifts at my family's house or working in the kitchen wherever they needed me. And this last year of 2018, I was working part-time for my family as well as working with or starting my business. So, at the beginning of the year, I was planning 3 or 4 events at a time while I was still working 30 to 40 hours. But it's because I still had to pay the bills, and, you just got to do what you got to do. But definitely it's the hardest year of your life. And it's like so much easier when, you have that weight lifted and you finally see not financial freedom, but like, you can support yourself and your family through it.
Like, hey, I'm making progress.
Yes.
Look at this.
Yeah.
I don't have to work 15-hour days.
Exactly. And just keeping that, relationship with your previous employer. That way, if you do get put off the schedule, hey, if you need me for a big weekend, just give me a call. I'm happy to hop in, and so just having those contacts and keeping all of your relationships, good with your bosses and stuff.
If you get one message out to the community, what would it be?
Let's see here. I know this is tacky, but follow your heart. Definitely, if you are thinking about something, whatever you're doing on your spare time, try and find a way to make that, something that you do all the time, just if you don't like where you're at, then start trying new things and, or find a way to bring that happiness more into your everyday life.
Cool. And any lasting thoughts? I mean, I'm out of questions for you.
No, I think this was great.
Is there anything that you feel maybe I missed that would be important for party planners to know? Like, when should someone contact you if like they want to plan a party? Like, how far out in advance?
Well, it's really hard to plan a party out of like a 14-month window. To book a venue, I definitely think that you can book like a year and a half out. Some venues don't, they'll say, okay, our books are open for this next year. But so, a lot of people will come to me with already their venue booked and everything, but I think 10 to 12 months out is like the perfect time frame. Once you book your big vendors, the big vendors like caterers and DJs, they'll book out, far in advance. But then when you get to your smaller vendors, they're running their own small business, like hair and makeup people, ceremony musicians, they all have probably full-time jobs and they're doing that either on the side or they're doing their full-time job and then they do weddings on the side. And so I definitely, 10 to 12 months, I would say, is the best time to contact an event plan. Unless you need help finding your venue, then it would be 12 to 14 months.
And how can people find you?
They can find me on Instagram at Colleen Lopez Events, Facebook as well. I'm on there too, but Instagram, you'll always see me on the stories, and or at my website at ColleenLopez.org, O-R-G.
Yeah, because .com was taken.
If you type in ColleenLopez.com, you are going to go to a middle-aged woman that sells jewelry. So that's not me. It's not me. No. ColleenLopez.org.
Perfect.
Yes.
Well, I appreciate it, Colleen, for coming on, sharing your insights.
Thank you. It was a blast.
I'm glad you had fun.
Yeah, when I open up my podcast, you're going to be one of my first guests.
Sweet.
Thanks.
Thanks, Colleen.